You picked up your phone to check one thing, and then 20 minutes were gone. You don't remember deciding to keep scrolling. You don't remember most of what you saw. And here's the strange part. That wasn't a lack of willpower. It was the entire point. The thing in your hand was built deliberately by some of the smartest people alive to do exactly that to you. And once you see how, you can't unsee it. To understand why, you have to start with a single chemical: dopamine. Most people think dopamine is the pleasure chemical, the thing that makes you feel good. That's not quite right. Dopamine isn't about pleasure, it's about anticipation. It's the chemical of wanting, not having. Your brain releases it not when you get a reward, but when you think a reward might be coming. It evolved to make you chase things: food, a mate, a path back to safety. It's the engine that gets an animal up and moving. And it turns out that engine has a flaw that something in your pocket has learned to exploit perfectly. In 1954, two researchers named James Olds and Peter Milner ran an experiment that should have warned us about all of this. They placed an electrode into the part of a rat's brain tied to this wanting system, and they gave the rat a lever that triggered it. The rat pressed the lever and felt the pull to press it again. So it did, and again. It pressed that lever again and again, in some studies as often as a couple of thousand times an hour. It ignored food, it ignored water. Given the choice between the lever and anything else, it chose the lever for hours on end. The rat wasn't happy. It was wanting endlessly, with no satisfaction that ever switched the wanting off. Hold that image because you have a version of that lever and you've been pressing it all day. But a lever alone isn't enough to trap a human. We're smarter than that. If pressing a button gave you the exact same reward every single time, you'd get bored and stop. And this is where the design gets genuinely clever, because the most powerful trigger for dopamine isn't a reward. It's an unpredictable reward. In the 1950s, the psychologist B.F. Skinner discovered something about reward that became the blueprint for everything you're holding. He found that if you gave an animal a reward every time it performed an action, the behavior was steady but weak. But if you made the reward random, sometimes yes, sometimes nothing, with no way to predict which, the behavior became almost impossible to extinguish. The animal would keep going far longer, far more obsessively, chasing a payoff that might or might not come. He called it a variable ratio schedule. You know it by a different name. It's the exact mechanism inside every slot machine ever built. Now think about what you actually do when you open a feed. You pull down to refresh. There's a half-second pause, and then maybe something good. Maybe a message you wanted. Maybe a video that makes you laugh. Or maybe nothing. You don't know which, and that's precisely the point. Every refresh is a pull of the lever. Every notification is a maybe. The uncertainty isn't a side effect of the design. The uncertainty is the design. You are not using a communication tool. You are operating a slot machine that someone handed you for free. And it gets stranger, because none of this is an accident. This was built on purpose, by people who knew exactly what they were doing. The pull to refresh gesture that's now on nearly every app was created by a designer named Lauren Brichter. He later said he wished he hadn't, and that he no longer thinks of it as a good thing, because he understood what it had become. The features have names inside these companies. The endless feed that never hits a bottom is called infinite scroll, and it exists specifically so you never reach a natural stopping point where you might put the phone down. The little red notification dots are tuned to a color that pulls your eye. The autoplay countdown to the next video is there, so the decision to keep watching is made for you, before you can decide to leave. A former design ethicist at Google, Tristan Harris, described the whole industry as a race to the bottom of the brainstem, a competition between billion-dollar companies to find the fastest route around your judgment and straight into your impulses. Your attention is the product they sell, and they are extraordinarily good at harvesting it. But the deepest part of this isn't the technology. It's the mismatch between that technology and the brain it's aimed at. Because the wanting system being exploited here is ancient, it was built for a world that no longer exists. For almost all of human history, the things your dopamine system chased were rare, and they were finite. A patch of ripe fruit, a successful hunt, a piece of news from another camp that actually mattered to your survival. The wanting drove you towards something real, and then the thing ran out, and the wanting stopped. Scarcity was built into the world, so it was built into the off switch. Your brain never needed its own break because the environment always supplied one. The berries were gone. The hunt was over. You went home. The screen removes the off switch entirely. The feed never runs out of berries. There is always one more post, one more video, one more maybe. You are running 300,000-year-old software designed for a world of scarcity, inside a machine engineered to be infinite. The wanting never gets the signal to stop, because the signal, that's all there is. You can rest now is the one thing the design is built to never send. This is why you can finish a scrolling session and feel worse than when you started. You weren't satisfied. You were just interrupted. The wanting was never switched off. It was only paused until the next time you reached for the lever. And that pausing has a cost. Every time you pull the lever, you're training your attention to expect a hit every few seconds, teaching it that anything slower than a feed isn't worth the effort. In one widely cited study, just having your phone on the desk, face down, switched off, untouched, appeared to lower people's focus. Not using it, just its presence in the room. The finding is debated, and later attempts to repeat it have come out mixed. But it points at something a lot of people quietly feel. And when heavy users try to quit for a week, the first few days look less like dropping a hobby and more like dropping a substance. Restless, irritable, reaching for something that isn't there. But the ones who push through describe the same thing on the other side. The world slows back down. Attention, it turns out, wasn't destroyed. It was only crowded out, and it comes back when you stop feeding the machine. So here's what's actually happening when 20 minutes disappear. It isn't weakness and it isn't a flaw in you. It's the opposite. Your brain is doing exactly what it evolved to do, chasing a possible reward with everything it has. The trap is that someone took that ancient, perfectly good machinery and built a device that offers an infinite supply of maybe, with no bottom and no end. The rat couldn't stop pressing the lever because nothing in its brain was ever designed to. Neither was yours. But you have one thing the rat didn't. The rat never knew it was in an experiment. It never once looked down at the lever and understood what it was. You just did. And that small, strange act, noticing the machine while you're still inside it, is the one move the entire design was never built to survive. So the next time your hand reaches for your phone before you've even decided to, you might feel something the rat never could. A flicker of recognition. The quiet awareness that you are about to pull the lever. And in that half second of noticing, for the first time, the choice is actually yours.